Okay, here we are, back to the little spring theme workshop. It's time to change. We'll be talking about a change a little bit, about the change that we've gone through the last couple of months, about the change that we hope to foster in the next coming weeks, months, and potentially years. And just a quick overview about what to expect today. Um, We'll talk a little bit about the science of change. There's actually a science of change. We're going to look into a book that I thought was really interesting that I can absolutely recommend for you. The book is a lot about how to overcome key obstacle to change. And it's like a scientific book, and I'll get into it in a second. We're gonna try to like learn a little bit by giving advice, which is a surprisingly good way of like teaching ourselves when we give other people advice. So we're trying to do that today. We're going to share some feedback on the course. That's an important part for me today, and I'm looking forward to your honest feedback. We get there later. Reflecting on our experience of the course, of course, and then very important, appreciating our fellow participants. Yeah, you can look forward to some nice words about you. So that's at the very end of this session here today. Um, I'm trying to, I hope, but we'll see. You never know. Potentially, I think we are done before 9 today. I don't have it's not, usually I prepare workshops that like last 5 hours and I have to press them in 2.5. Today, I really like aim for 2 hours. So let's see I don't think we'll take a break, and then maybe we're done at like 8:15. Yeah, 8:30 at the latest. If we talk more, we talk more. We'll just see how things go. We start with a book. The book's called How to Change: The Science of Getting to Where You Want to Be by an American professor called Katie Milkman, which is a very nice person. I the first time I came across her was on a podcast, maybe about a year ago. And she sounded like a really nice person, a really fun person to hang out. And so I listened to the podcast, and then I read the book, and I found the book really, really interesting. There's tons of ideas on how to facilitate change. When you have the project of like, I want to be a different person, I want to have different habits, I want to be more successful, or like do more what I want to do. That book is not only a very entertaining read, I think it has really a lot of ideas how to do that. And Katie Milkman, she's actually, which I find really interesting, she's not a psychologist by trade. She works now as a psychologist professor, as a behavioral scientist, but she's actually an engineer, which gives her, I think, like a really interesting look at things. She's very like problem oriented, and like psychologists have the the fame or like the reputation of like being a little bit, wishy-washy and like drumming around the bushes. She's going straight to the point, no bullshit. Okay, this is the problem. What can I do to solve the problem? And then coming up with interesting engineer-like solutions. The key idea of the book is basically that not willpower is the way to go about change, because willpower fails human beings. We usually we will is not enough, but we need a strategy to kind of, I don't want to say fool ourselves, but to hack ourselves. So we have to like come up with the right strategy that is designed around our own psychology, around human psychology in general, but about our personal psychology too. How can I trick myself into doing things that I kind of want to do, but maybe in the moment there's other things I think are more important, or like I don't really want to. So there's all kinds of ways how we like sabotaging ourselves. And she came up with like dozens and dozens of ideas how to, make little changes that really in the long term we have better results. Highly entertaining book. As always, if you want it, just let me know and I'll send the PDF or the ebook to you. Um, the book has like 8 chapters, and among the ones we're not going to talk about everything, just a couple of to give you an idea how the book works, how it's, what it suggests. She's going to talk about laziness, procrastination, and impulsivity, and I get into what impulsivity means in a second. It basically means that you want to do other things at this point, like you kind of want to focus on something else, and it's not really what I want to do. You go like the taking the shortcut. That is basically impulsivity, not like what hurts, but actually what feels better in the moment. That is what she means by impulsivity. She talks in the book about confidence, which is something that we have placed a lot of importance here in this course as well, especially in the last month, and about conformity, which is about social environment and how we react to what people do around us. And we're going to talk about a couple of those things. And then the question goes to you, what can I do in order to make this work for me and to achieve the things that I want, but not want all the time, apparently. We start with laziness. And basically what she says is a lot of people think of themselves as lazy and they think that this is a problem. But she says laziness can also be an opportunity. And hang on a second. Up. Yes, I have the book as a PDF. Yeah. Somebody wrote in the chat. Yes, I do have the book as PDF. No worries. Just let me know when you want it. So problem or opportunity? That's the question. And so she says humans' natural tendency is to follow the path of least resistance, which I think we all know. We don't, we're not machines. We don't work all the time as we would like. And so what she says is we have to design defaults wisely to make laziness work for us. She has like a whole chapter on like setting your defaults in a certain way. For example, when you open your computer, what is the first thing you start? When you open your browser, what is the first thing to start? So it's really like, is there something for me if I want to learn German? How can I change that? How can I have default settings? For example, if I leave I don't know, for example, if I leave the house, can I place the book on my desk on the front so like when I come back, it's the first thing I see? And stuff like this, just like what can I do to kind of like trick myself into believing that that is the default? That is one option. And for example, for us, you can leave, I don't know, like the language reactor as your like to-go site in the browser or a German TV show that you watch. Yeah, that would be just setting your defaults wisely. And what she says is a lot of habits that we have, or that in the end, it's very often it's about developing new habits. We have certain habits, we all have habits, and the question is, are those habits helping us? And if we say, no, no, I want to change them, the question then is, how do we change those habits? Which, as you all may know, those who try to learn German maybe, is a difficult thing to do. And another thing is really, as I just said, like really having a habit as a behavioral default is something that we do automatically. Yeah. And hang on, repeat an action in sentences. And one thing is also like that we connect. So we want to achieve something, and the idea is that we connect the action with an award. Yeah. So we're basically training ourselves as like the Pavlov dog. And so like we're kind of like, okay, this is what I do automatically. I'll set an award every time I do this. I get this, and then I create a behavior. And one day I can actually leave the reward away. So it's kind of like coming up with strategies that will help you change your habits. And that's just one example. And it's probably you can come up with like a lot of ideas when you hear this. When you read it, the book, you will find there's even more ideas. And the question is always, how can I do this as like a language learner? How can I? It's about speaking, about learning, about learning vocab. For those of you who really learn vocab, one thing would be, for example, every time I'm on the bus or in the subway, I study vocab. Yeah, that would be one thing. So you kind of like, and maybe then at the end, you get something if you did this. So kind of like come up with something that motivates you, that is a treat for you. And then every time you do this, then like there's a little treat coming. Be creative to hack yourself. I think that could be like a fun exercise of tricking yourself into doing things that you otherwise might not do. Um, Building lasting habits is the goal, as I said. Um, and Katie Milkman has a couple of ideas on how to build those habits. And one thing that's really important when you start building habits, and when they begun to kick in those habits, it is important to be flexible, to embrace flexibility. Don't be too strict. If you overly strict, you just like blame yourself for failing the whole time. So she says overly strict routines lead to habit failure, and so it is difficult to keep them going, like to establish them and to keep them going, in order to not to fail. And one thing is, don't be too strict. Yeah. You want a flexible autopilot, yeah, so that the behavior keeps going even when there's like suboptimal conditions going on. Then another thing I think is really important, which very often we might not do, is track your progress. If you take like a language exam, that is a way of tracking your progress. Or you just actually start writing a diary of things that you have done. Today I learned vocab for 20, like in the evening, just come up with like something like this. Today I was like 5 minutes on the bus. I watched this, and it doesn't take a long time. Just having like a little learning diary or speaking diary, so that you can just like see how much time you actually spend on learning and speaking. That is one idea if you feel like you a little bit behind. Um, so like you always, okay, I have to write this down. So this is another nudge. Yeah, that's kind of like, okay, I have to do this. I have to do this. I should be doing this. I wanted to do that. And that enables you to like celebrate success. When it goes really well, kind of, fuck, I did all this stuff. And when you go and look after like a 2 weeks, like I spent a lot of time doing this, which you might not be aware of. And also when you feel like it's not going so well, you kind of like, okay, I have, it's written down here what I've done. So like you're more accountable for your own actions. You protect your streaks. That's really important. There's like streaks twice here. I think what she's meant is, and I've been talking with some of you about streaks and like kind of like being on a roll. And what she says, like you have to protect when it's going well. And one way is, as she said before, like embrace flexibility, but also here, she talks a lot about like working out, for example, or like going running or learning and stuff. It's okay if you miss something every once in a while. Allow yourself not to be perfect. Allow yourself to miss out on days. And she says 5 out of 7, 4 out of 7, every other day. That's great. That is still a streak. Yeah. Once you stop doing it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you fail to protect the streak. So also like short breaks won't break habits, but extended gaps will. That is important. I think I said to some of you, and I said this many times in the past, when you go on a vacation, especially if you go on a vacation home to your home country, it's totally okay if you don't do any German for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, even for 4 weeks. That will not kill you. Yeah. I think breaks are really important, and you don't have to study all the time every single day. Allow for some breaks. You deserve it. And then when you're back, you can build the streak back up. Yeah. But extended gaps, they will break the streak. We're talking about like 2 months, yeah, to 10 weeks. But 2-3 weeks, no problem at all. If you just make a conscious decision, I'm taking a break now. And then there's one thing that she really suggests that is a really fascinating idea. She calls this piggybacking on existing habits. It's basically you link new behaviors to established routines. One example would be you drink every morning. You drink your coffee, yeah, and then like also you just say, okay, every time I drink my coffee after that, in order to get it, I have to like do like I don't know, like 50 push-ups. Yeah, that would be one way, or like piggybacking new habits to old ones. Um, she has a really interesting example. She talks about that she was like she she wanted to work out more, and she just didn't have the time to get to the gym. But she also really liked reading like trashy, like let's say telenovela stuff. So what she did, like books. So what she did, she got like audiobooks, and she said like I'm only allowed to listen to these audiobooks when I'm at the gym. And they actually ran like a huge experiment on this when people have like really interesting literature and stuff they will look forward to it, but they only allowed to listen at the gym. The workout rate goes like up exponentially. Funnily enough, the last I don't know, couple of years, I never worked out with like I always worked out without anything on my phone, and now I'm trying this, and I'm listening to my favorite podcast only at the gym. So when I have to listen, if I want to listen to it, I have to go to the gym. I don't allow myself to listen to my favorite podcast anywhere else but in the gym. That would be an example also of like piggybacking. She calls this temptation bundling. I don't think I have it in the presentation. It's a different word she came up with. Temptation bundling. Connect something that you really like with something that you don't like so much, and then like do it at the same time. I think it's a really smart way of doing things, and I think it really works. I actually enjoy going to the gym now much more because she's like, oh, I can listen to my favorite podcast now. And then this is the last slide on Katie Milkman. Then we go into the I let you guys talk. There's something called the conformity. That means like you can use social influence, social leverage, the power of your peers and your friends to also change your habits. I think that is a really fascinating chapter, by the way. So if you want to get into this, and just as I said, just this is just a peek preview of the book. People around you, they make you see what is possible. Yeah. So it very often it's don't look at people around you as like, oh God, they're so good and I can't do this. It's just okay, that's possible. You know, that people actually have done this and they're normal people, and I guess I can do this too. Decisions that we take are heavily shaped by our peer groups and the norms in that groups. It's I think it's really when you are hanging out with people that just hate German all the time, they speak shit about German, and they say like I gave up a long time ago. If that is the discourse in that group, then you are, if they're like really good friends of yours and good, it's solid friends, then you will be influenced by this too. Yeah, I think it's very obvious. And obviously, the closer those relationships are, the stronger this effect is. Yeah. And it can be positive or negative. Yeah. Having friends who like love it and think this is great, then obviously, and you're good friends, then you get carried with them. And if not, it's exactly the opposite. And the more similar a person, if you have a person who's in a very similar situation as you are, then the greater that person's impact is on you. Yeah, if there's also like a student from your country who's also lived in Germany for 1 year, then you can identify with this person much stronger, and then this relationship has also a much stronger influence on you and a bigger impact on your behavior. You can then just like ask those people. Katie Milkman was like, just ask people, what do they do? Let them give you advice. You like get them as a mentor. It's really important to have mentors. I actually wanted to have in this program. In the end, we didn't do it. I wanted to have like a mentor program where like people who've been like been in Germany longer and have studied for like a longer time actually coach people who've been here less. In the end, I didn't have the headspace to organize this. I think that is really nice to just be a mentor and have somebody you can ask, and just have like an open conversation about these things, which very often we don't, at least not in depth. And then we can copy we can maybe not copy, but like learn from their story, learn from their advice. And also the people that give us advice, they will also learn from that. That idea was actually inspired by this book. It never happened. I'm sorry. Um, and then, this sounds really crazy, feeling watched, but because you care about peer approval, feeling watched by groups changes your behavior. We all know this. So you feel like you see there's a lot of ideas that she has of kind of like giving you a little bit of an extra push. Yeah, just a little bit. Because in the end, it is those little, there's no one big push that changes everything. It's just little nudges, little quick tweet, what's the word, like a twist, that actually like pushes you more and more towards the behavior that you are looking for and that you want to see yourself doing. And this is one aspect of this. Okay, that is just a little insight into Katie Milkman's. Then I have just a little discussion for you guys prepared with everything you just heard. Like there's some ideas, the piggybagging and the temptation bundling and the power of your peer group and all the things. And now the discussion for you, again, like for a couple of minutes, as always. How could you make your own laziness work for you? That's the first question we'll talk about. Yeah. Um, Weird question, but like get into it. It's like, okay, what can I do? Like what kind of habits do I have already? And then how could I make that laziness and my, how could I tweak my default settings in my everyday life? Um, Taking everything that we just had, what do you think? How could you just come up with like one idea, or you don't have to have 17 ideas, just one or two? How could you improve your habits for learning and speaking German going forward, considering everything I just talked about? And number three, and that's a larger discussion, I would say, but what impact does your social environment have on your current situation? And how do people talk about learning and speaking German there? And are there people that, knowing how important your social environment is, are there maybe people you should spend less time with, or maybe avoid certain topics? Or are there people you should spend more time with? That's like one question you can also ask yourself. Okay, I would say I'll. Um, okay, the power of advice. I don't know if you ever noticed this, but giving advice very often, depending on the subject, but if it's a subject that also like close to your heart, it will actually convince you much more than the person you give advice to. And they actually did studies on this, which is really fascinating. They came up with like this high school thing where like high school students had to give advice, learning advice and study advice to other high school students, and then the others would watch it. And then they realized, like doing the study, that like on the person that giving the advice, it had an effect, and on the person receiving the advice, it had no effect, which I thought was really, really interesting. And people use this, and it's like this mentor system. Very often, it helps the mentor almost, probably even more, or maybe even as much as the person being mentored. Um, and then the question then would be, maybe there's a way of like forming what Katie Milkman calls advice clubs, where you have people that are in a very similar situation, they want to achieve very similar things, and so when you ask somebody for advice, you don't primarily ask that person for advice because you want to follow that advice, but you ask that person for advice because they will benefit from giving you advice. So if there's maybe here in this course people that you think are in a similar situation that you like, you are invited to start an advice club, and we're doing this in a second. So yeah, but it's important that those people pursue or have similar goals, and then this can really work. I think it's a beautiful idea. Asking people for advice in order to help them. Um, because it also builds their confidence and it clarifies their strategy. That's the one aspect. Just by talking about it, by like explaining it to someone else, it has to become clearer for ourselves. But also, we don't want to be a hypocrite. So, like, we want to, like, walk you walk. We want to walk our talk. So basically, when we say something to someone else, then the chances go up that we also follow our own advice. So we have a double effect here, which I think is particularly interesting. And so, like, the bottom line is giving advice is more powerful than receiving it. You will notice this one day. You probably all notice that when you like start teaching things, you will understand them much better than if they're just being taught to you, because like you realize, okay, I haven't understood this, I haven't understood this, and when you explain this, you find those holes. They will be very striking. So let's try this. The power of giving advice. Again, with a person, and I'm trying now to actually put you in with people who are on a similar level, in a similar situation. So I will curate the groups. So give me a little bit of time to do this. And so time to give advice. And the question is, I've been talking with some of you about this already, but like, what is your next development step? What are you struggling with? And what is like the next logical step for you? Yeah, there's always like one thing that is the next thing we have to do with learning and speaking German. So we describe what the situation is, what that development step is. Then we ask the other person for advice. And it's important, just let that person talk. Let that person give advice to you, okay? Knowing that they're giving advice to themselves in a certain way. And then listen to them first and then strategize a little bit together to develop a concrete strategy for maybe the two of you. Yeah, that is a little bit the idea here. Okay, so time to give advice.